Good morning, my friends, and welcome to Kevin at 7. Yes, I am back after several weeks of not doing Kevin at 7 just because I've been traveling and with my dad and summertime, and it's been crazy. And so we're like, you know what? We're going to restart Kevin at 7. So I just decided to do it um, off the cuff this morning. My grandson, Eli, is here for the first time, getting to visit with, getting him to get to come stay with us with my daughter, Jelena. And we are having a great time. So we've gone to the zoo, we've gone to see the Dodgers play, we've gone to the aquarium, the aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach. We've gone to the beach. We went back to the beach today. We've gone and played soccer and baseball and playground and hiking. We went hiking and all kinds of cool stuff that we've been doing. But it's very interesting uh, with a 5-year-old son or grandson. Um, I raised 4 girls, or raised 3 girls, and have a fourth daughter, so actually a stepdaughter, but just did not get to raise her. But anyway, um, so have you ever noticed how a 5-year-old, the temper, what can happen? The temper, how they get upset about anything that's rah, and all of a sudden they go from being happy to being mad in no time, and then they just want to just either throw a fit or walk off. And I was talking to his mom, who's my daughter, about it, and she goes, "Yeah, he's had anger issues since he was very, very young." So, good morning, everybody. As you come on, make sure you post in the comments where you are, just your city and state, or province, or country, or whatever, so I can see who I'm talking to. Good to see you. Welcome. I'm going to talk about anger issues and other BS because the reality is this whole thing of anger issues. When my daughter told me that my grandson has been diagnosed as having anger issues, and I'm like, anger issues. That's a very interesting thing. I'm like, me too. I got anger issues. How many of you have anger issues? Hey, Jeffrey from Orlando, good to see you. How many of you have anger issues? I'm like, what exactly does that mean when we have anger issues? Here's the reality. I want to talk about the emotion and our feelings. Your feelings are a territory of your life. The question is, in that territory of your life, we call them the 7 domains. So in that domain, in that state, in that area of your life, it's like you have a kingdom. And in this kingdom, you have this territory of emotions. One domain, one state in your kingdom is the kingdom of feelings, part of the 7 domains. And the question is, are you the master of that domain, or are your emotions, your feelings, the master of that domain? And see, the reality is when you're a child, you're a little kid, it's very normal for when something doesn't go right, for their emotions to take over, because that's when you're a baby, an infant. This is how they let you know they're hungry, they're thirsty, they're sleepy, they need to be changed. This is how they let you know, is their emotions take over and say, okay, the baby needs attention, and the baby doesn't know how to get attention, so we're going to let the emotions take over and cause the baby to be angry or sad or in distress, and so we're going to cause the baby to cry. So the emotions take over and dump this incredible energy of feelings into this baby that the baby doesn't know how to articulate or understand or anything. All of a sudden the baby's just, ah, the baby's screaming, right? Okay. Well, over time, the kid, as we grow up, we learn that our emotions play a big part of our life, and they are very powerful. And we also learn that when we have an emotional outburst, that gets stuff to happen, right? When you have an emotional outburst, things happen, and you can cause things to happen by your emotional outburst. So a kid learns that when he cries, it stimulates a response from the adults, from mom and dad, from other people, right? So they learn when they scream in anger. They learn that sometimes if they pout, they take this emotion, they shut down, they won't talk to anybody. And they find out one time they hold their breath, and it gets their parent to make a response. And what's happening is they learn how to use their feelings to get a response, to get a result. So there's two things going on here. One is they are learning to deal with their emotions. For better or for worse, they are learning that my emotions are powerful and that I deal with them. Now, sometimes they deal with them and use them as a tool to get what they want. And other times they allow the emotion, the feeling, to dominate them. And they can't control the emotion, and it goes like into a temper tantrum or whatever, where they're out of control and the emotion is now in control. The question is, for you, for me, who is the master in the dominion, in the domain of your feelings, of your emotions? Are you the master, or are your emotions the master? Do you let your emotions be the king, or are you the king or queen of your emotions? So let's just think about some of the emotions we play with. So anger is what? So whenever you get angry, do you use that anger, the energy of that anger, to fix stuff? Or does the anger take over you and you get out of control? So then you yell, or you say stuff, or you hit stuff, or you break your hand knocking a hole in the wall. That's when the anger now is ruling over you, and it causes you to do stuff that later you go like, I shouldn't have done that. Is this making sense? If it is, can I see thumbs up? Buenos dias, Merily Munoz. Merily. I don't know how that name would go in Spanish. Good to see you. Welcome, everybody. Good to see all of you here. So do you control the emotion, or does the emotion control you? Okay, so let's take sadness. Things aren't going the way I want, and I feel sad. I feel grief. I feel a sense of I can't control what's going on, and I feel a sense of loss or grief or whatever. As long as I control that emotion, then that feeling is saying, hey, something's missing. You've had a loss, or you've had something that we might consider heartbreaking, and it happens, and it makes me feel sad. Why? Because I need to now deal with the grief. I need to deal with the loss. But if I don't deal with it well, if I don't control that emotion and I let the emotion take control, then grief or sadness or a sense of loss can turn into depression. And depression is when you no longer are the king or queen over that feeling, and that feeling becomes the master over you. Okay? If this is making sense, give me a comment. Makes sense. And here's one. In fact, I want you to type this in. I want to just hear. This lets me see who's listening and who's paying attention. If this is making sense. Am I in control, or are my feelings in control? Thank you, Marilee. Am I in control, or are my feelings in control? So type that in the comments. Am I in control, or are my feelings in control? Can somebody type that in for me? Now, let's talk about another one. Okay, what about desire? Desire is a very strong emotion. I want something, and I want it so badly, okay? And Napoleon Hill said the first key to all achievement is having a burning desire. You got to want something so badly that you can't stop thinking about it. It becomes an obsession. But if it's the wrong thing that you want, and you allow that emotion to take control of wanting something, I'll do whatever it takes to get it, but it's the wrong thing, or I don't control the emotion, and that desire causes me to do bad things. Now I've allowed the feelings to take control, and they are now the master of my life. But when I take that, I want something, maybe a big dream, and I say, I want it so bad, I'll do whatever it takes to get it, but I'm making good choices, and I'm doing the right things, it just drives me. Then it becomes a very powerful thing in my favor, because I am the master of my emotion, and I'm using the energy of that emotion to get what I want. So it happens with anger, out of control, becomes temper, causes you to do things you regret when you allow the anger to become the master. Okay, what about sadness? When sadness gets control of you and you lose control of it, it can turn into depression. It can turn into somebody having thoughts to hurt themselves or do something bad out of their grief or their sadness, and that becomes depression or desperation or hopelessness. That when I feel a sense of powerlessness, I feel helpless. Okay, I can feel helpless, and I'm like, okay, that tells me I need to do something to get where I'm not helpless anymore, right? To change my situation. But if I get to where I don't feel power, I feel so powerless, so helpless that I just give up, I've allowed the emotion to take control. Okay, now let's bring in another one. The favorite of real estate agents, fear. Fear. I'm scared. What if they say this? What if this happens? What if this happens? Now, fear tells you that there is risk. Okay, that's what fear tells you there is risk. So what do you do with what do you do with fear? If you allow the fear to take control of you, what's going to happen? What is going to happen if you allow fear to take over? Fear will paralyze you. If you allow the fear to be the master instead of you be the master over your fear. Okay, I'm scared. I'm scared of calling these people. I'm scared of prospecting. I'm scared of calling these expireds or these for sale by owner. I'm scared of talking to my seller because I'm afraid they're going to be mad. I take control of the fear and I let the fear just inform my body, inform me that, okay, this is important. This matters. And I'm going to take the energy of that fear and I'm going to channel it into action. And I'm going to take something. And then when I do that, boom, I break through the fear. It's really, in a sense, breaking through the fear is simply feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Is I am now the master of my fear. Now, the great thing about fear is it makes a great servant, but it makes a bad master. Because when you allow fear to become your master, especially if you are in a business like real estate, where you're a real estate agent, and you're allowing fear to stop you, you're allowing fear to be the master of your fate, the master of your income. You lose. Yes, are you understand? Can I see a thumbs up? Give me some. If fear's the master, you lose. If fear is the master, you lose. Why? Because you're allowing the fear to stop you. You're allowing the fear to make you make a decision that's not going to work for you. So it doesn't matter what emotion it is. It can be guilt. So what does guilt tell me? Guilt tells me something is wrong. I violated my value. I'm doing something that's not in alignment with my value. So what am I going to do with guilt? If I turn guilt inward and I let it take control, it will cause me to run away. It will cause me to flee. It will cause me to shut down. But if I allow the guilt to go like, oh no, I'm violating my conscience. I'm violating my sense of moral compass, my values. What am I going to do? I'm going to change it. Because it's an alarm. It's telling you change what you are doing. It's like a fire alarm. If you're sitting in your house and your smoke alarm goes off, you look at it and you go like, okay, something needs to be done, right? Guilt is a fire alarm. It tells you something needs to be done. It doesn't tell you you need to feel bad. Guilt is not something to be just like endured. Guilt is an alarm. It's like, fix it. But too many of us, we don't fix it. We live with guilt. And we allow guilt to be the master. And guilt just hangs over us, hang over us. So I want you to think about what are the emotions in your day. They can be positive or negative. Distraction can be like living in distraction where it's like, I don't want to face anything. So it's like an emotion, almost like creative avoidance, which is kind of a fear emotion, just at a very low level. But some people are so into distraction, so into creative avoidance, procrastination, that's a low level of fear that you're allowing to drive your behavior. Yeah, I'm telling you the truth. So what are the emotions? What are the feelings through my day that I'm dealing with? And am I controlling them? Or am I allowing them to control me? My friend, your emotions are not smart. Your emotions are powerful. If you let them be the master, you lose. If you become the master of your emotions and you use the energy of those, you're not trying to squash your emotions. Like my 5-year-old grandson that I was talking about. You don't try to, it's like, don't get upset. We don't squash his emotions. What we've got to learn, what we've got to help him do is learn how to control those emotions so that he is the master over them. So when we talk about anger issues, dude, I'm like, I got anger issues. Like I get angry. It's not having the anger that's the problem. It's learning to be the master of your anger rather than letting your anger be the master of you. It's not fear, like fear of rejection or fear of mistakes, exactly. It's not the fear of rejection or fear of mistakes. That's not a problem. It's that you control the emotion and you take action anyway. and say, hey, I don't want to be rejected. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take action and I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm going to learn better communication skills. And I'm going to try to win the relationship. I'm going to try to overcome the rejection. If I can't, oh well, I'll go find somebody else that won't reject me. Journey. This is all the journey, my friends, but don't let your emotions determine the journey. Use your emotions as your servant to empower you along the journey. That's it for today, guys. Have a great week. Play to win and always expect yes.